There's an old saying that goes, when it rains, it pours. And I interpret that as, if something's going to f*** up, it's going to f*** up big. And that is the story with my BA XR6 Turbo. Long-time viewers will know that we've had issues with the tail shaft on this thing vibrating at anything over 80 k's an hour. I had the shaft rebuilt, I had the center bearing replaced, the center uni joint was replaced as part of that process, whacked it back in, and the vibration was pretty much same as before. So I took this thing to a drivetrain expert, and they had one of their techs working on this car for an entire day, and he couldn't figure it out at all. In fact, I don't know what he did, but he made it worse. So much so that this car is pretty much undrivable. Seriously, I picked this thing up at the end of the day, and on takeoff, there was a really bad sort of a thump from, I'm guessing, the center of the tail shaft in the center bearing there. It would sort of go boom, boom, boom. And then at around 20 k's an hour, it would do it again. It would go boom, boom, boom through the entire car. And then when you got to about 50 k's an hour, a really severe, super severe vibration kicked in. And I had to do a lot of highway driving to get home, so I hoped sort of maybe above 70 or 80, it'll kind of even out a little bit and I'll be able to drive home, but no, it got worse the faster you got. So much so that I was fearing for the health of that drive shaft, or tail shaft rather. I was worried it was going to shake itself to pieces. It was seriously that bad. So I limped this thing home. I swear that thumping at takeoff and also around 20 was getting worse, but I managed to get the car home, and here we are. So I called them up and booked it in because they said, look, we're going to need another appointment if you want us to fix this. And they're not entirely sure how they're going to fix it, but they're assuming they might have to rebuild the entire tail shaft in one way or another. So I've got a booking for about 2 weeks' time, but until then, yeah, I can't drive this car. It's seriously disabled. And I'm in two minds about it. Like, do I keep this appointment, or do I go and buy a new two-piece tail shaft? Because I've decided I want to stick with a two-piece shaft. Viewers will know I do have a one-piece shaft sitting in the shed, but I've decided against it because I want to keep the originality with the two-piece factory shaft, and also that shaft is a larger diameter, and I do think it's going to foul on my exhaust, so I'd have to get that modified or I'd have to get it replaced. And I'd probably need a front tail shaft loop, maybe a rear one. So you'd have to, it's not as simple as bolting it up. But yeah, the risk with buying a new two-piece shaft is, what if I buy that, spend all that money, bolt it in, and I'm back to where I started with the same vibration? I don't know. So I am leaning towards keeping that booking for 2 weeks' time and hoping they can fix it. They're going to probably need the car for a couple of days. This car, man, it's doing my head in, I swear. Let's leave this behind at the moment because, yeah, this thing will give me a headache if I keep thinking about it. Today's video is all about the AU. But firstly, I want to thank everyone who bought a Homegrown Heroes t-shirt from MotoringBox.com. They've only been for sale for a week, but I've pretty much sold out of everything except for a couple of smalls, a couple of mediums, a couple of larges, and a couple of 2XLs. So if you're considering supporting the channel, that is an awesome way to do that. Let's have a look at the AU and see what's going on with it. So what on earth is happening with this thing? Well, we have a leak from the front of the engine, and I reckon a few of you guys in the comments are probably correct, and that is, it is the timing chain tensioner, which is actually underneath the bracket which holds on the power steering pump. Now, I actually didn't know that that thing was located there because it is literally under the bracket. But that is kind of the location where all of the oil is coming from, and I couldn't really see where the oil was exactly coming out of, so I have a feeling it's going to be under there. We're going to have to take the fans out, we're going to have to take the power steering pump off and sort of move it away. Take the belt off, of course, maybe take a couple of pulleys off and just see exactly what is going on in there. And like I found out last week, this radiator, I reckon, is due for replacement. So I've got a brand new one, which we're going to throw in today. And of course, with that tensioner, there are some rubber seals which you need to replace. So I have a little kit here. There seems to be two parts, like an inner part and an outer part. The inner part seems to come out first, but then I'm a little bit fuzzy about how that whole thing works exactly. So we're going to play that part by ear. And I do have some new hoses as well, because if you're going to be pulling the radiator, you're going to be draining the coolant, I think it makes sense to replace some of the hoses too. So let's just start ripping into this shit and see what happens, honestly. I could almost speed run this at the moment. I've had this whole thing off quite a few times since I've owned the car. But yeah, the timing chain tensioner part of it does frighten me a little bit because I don't really know how it works. But let's just rush into it and face that battle when we get there. Right, fans are out of the way. Let's get the belt off. Belt's off. And yes, that was a torque wrench. You can flame me all in the comments for that if you want. I really don't care. Learning how to work on your own car is pretty empowering. I really hope that today I can fix this oil leak issue, because ordinarily this is something I would have sent to a garage. So there's three bolts here in the front. You need to remember what order they come out. Must have done them up a little bit tightly last time. So yes, these bolts are different lengths, so you definitely want to put them back in the same way they came out. So that's cool. I should just be able to put that there, and that's awesome. So apparently the tensioner is underneath here. From here, it is looking like that's where the oil's coming from, because down the side of the engine is dry until you get to about here. Now, I don't know if you can see that, but it is wet directly under this bracket. It's dry down there. It's sort of dry around the front. It's right here. So I'm guessing you guys in the comments are legends. Very good. Someone has definitely been in here before. There's quite a lot of goo and stuff around here too. I know once you pull this center section out, I think you need to... Oh, the whole thing's coming out. My concern, not knowing how it works, is there anything inside which is going to fall down or fall out of alignment if I pull that tensioner out? Tell you what, if you only live once, let's just send it. Let's just pull this thing out. The whole thing is coming out. There is like an inner and an outer, but let's just pull the whole thing out and have a look. We've come this far. Hopefully I don't hear anything pop or fall down inside the front of the timing case there. I don't really know how the tensioner works. So yeah, let's have a look, shall we? Okay, it is spring loaded, as you would expect. Alright, let's try and clean this thing up a bit. The seal does look a little bit flat, like it's pretty worn out, so hopefully that is a good sign, something we can fix. The only thing that's kind of giving me confidence here is that hopefully this part is designed to be serviceable without having to take the timing cover off there. Okay, that looks like it's complete. I'm so nervous. All you guys who have done this before are going to be laughing your heads off, but like, this freaks me out a bit. All right, let's have a look at this tensioner and try and work it out. So this is what came out of the engine. This is like the innermost part, and then this kind of attached onto there somehow, and then I believe sat in there. So there is a bit of a seal there, but my God, it's old. It's completely hard, like that should be rubber, I'm guessing. So is that a gasket, or is that just like gasket goo that's been squashed? It even looks like it's got thread locker on it. It's orange. That's probably why it's so damn hard to get out. Heat. There's a lot of crap on the threads there. This is impossible. So I've made an executive decision that I'm going to leave the inner part in place on the basis that I didn't see any oil leaking around from that edge there. I think it is sufficiently sealed that it's not leaking. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that alone. I'm going to try and scrape these threads out a little bit because they're pretty gunked up with stuff. And then what I'm going to do is replace the seal here. And there's another seal here. That seal looks okay, but I will put a new one on there. That's what we're going to have to do for today. Tell you what guys, buying second-hand cars, this could be you on your Saturday afternoon. So we should be able to put this one on the end, and then this big one should just be able to slide down there, like so. So that should be sweet. There's a little bit of, one final little bit of goo there, we'll just scrape that out. The rest of that is nice and neat. Yeah, she's very brittle. She just cut through and split up straight away. So there we go. So this seal kind of sat flush with the housing, if you know what I mean. So, does the new one do the same? See, that one actually sits out a little bit. So that's what I would expect a seal to do, whereas that one, like I said, was flat. It's definitely sitting out nicer now. So look, fingers crossed, we'll slap this back in and see how it goes. Here goes nothing. And then, yeah, I might just put some thread sealant on this quickly. Like so. That's probably too much, but look, that's what the person before me did. So let's just run with that. So because of that spring, we'll just need to sort of ram it in there. No? I'm a little bit curious about why that's not going in. Hey, there we go. Whatever it was caught on has just kind of gone back in. Not quite enough for this thing to bite, but it's nearly there. Hey, I think it's going in now. Yes? Yes, it is. You know, I don't want to fuck around with my engine, so I'm a bit nervous as to what's happening here. I know roughly how tight it was when I took this thing out, so let's just do it up the same. At least this time we've got proper rubber seals in there. That's about how it was. Hopefully it's all sealed up nicely. It is fairly clean around there now, so at least we'll be able to tell if we have to come back later. We'll be able to see if it's leaking or not. Pulleys back on. I'm gonna go have some lunch and we'll come back and we'll do the radiator and the hoses. See you soon. Right guys, we are back from lunch, and before I went to lunch I actually ran this engine for about a minute. Couldn't run it for very long because the belt's not on, the water pump's not turning, but there was no oil visible when I came back. You can't really see very well, but underneath this sort of bracket, that's where I would expect to see any oil seeping out, and I cannot see any. So obviously the engine was not running for very long, but that is a pretty positive sign, I would think, and it looks pretty good otherwise. So what we're going to do before we reinstall the power steering, I'm actually going to replace this radiator, because where the bolt for the thermofan goes into the tank here, it's actually sort of all snapped out, so you can't really bolt that side in anymore, and I reckon it's a sign that the plastic on those tanks is getting a bit brittle. I'm gonna have to pull this transcooler off. I don't have any replacement sort of fixing pins or whatever you call it for this, so I'll have to figure that out or dummy something up until we can get some new ones. I also have some replacement hoses. I have a whole kit. For today, I might just do the top and the lower hose. We'll do those ones first. We may as well do the ones that run to the overflow tank there as well. They're easy enough to get to. So we'll do 1, 2, there's a big one there, 3, the lower hose 4, 5. I reckon that's the plan. So I'm going to start pulling hoses. We are going to lose coolant, of course. I've got new coolant. You can sort of feel the whole internals of the pipe sort of flexing and cracking and stuff. So yeah, these coolant hoses do kind of deteriorate from the inside out. So you don't really see the issue until you have coolant coming out. So I dare say they are due for it, for sure. So these overflow tanks, they discolor with age, but also where these hoses connect on, that can go brittle too. So they may look okay, or they look dirty, but you think they're all right, but yeah, they could be cracking or threatening to crack. So that radiator should almost be good to go. We just need to unbolt it from the front of the condenser here. Hey. There she comes. Yippee. Here we have our shiny brand new one. So keen-eyed viewers among us will see this has also got plastic end tanks, because that is not necessarily an issue. I've actually got this the wrong way around. So that's the way around, it goes there. So we have the lower radiator hose, we have the one for the overflow. These are for the automatic transmission cooling lines by default, but we have them routed to an external cooler, so that's fine. It's also an extra sort of breather hose or whatever that one is that goes to the overflow tank. And this side is only the upper radiator hose. Do the mounting holes line up? Yes, they do. So we'll just get this radiator and condenser and everything bolted back up. So we have the transcooler just dodgily zip tied in place for now. I will get the correct pins to install that, and it'll be dead set easy to come back. You just pull the front grill out, take the thermofans out, you can install it. So for now, let's get our hoses put on. I just wish manufacturers can use a type of sticker which just behaves a lot better than this. Like, it's super annoying.
To try to fix this on your own. You said you'd be alright. Around the corner is another day. Although I know that's a lie, I'm waiting for you to give it up.
Can't actually find a clean funnel, so let's just do it raw. So I've just got, what have I got here? I've got some Penrite OEM coolant. This car's always had green. If it doesn't quite go the distance, I usually just get a sneaky bit of tap water. I think a little bit wouldn't matter. Yeah, it's gonna need more than this, I think. Let's see if I've got a spare bottle. If not, she gets tap water. For the purposes of YouTube, this is demineralized water. But the reality may be different. It's now between the min and the max. That'll usually drop a little bit after you start the engine and run it for a while. But yeah, you can come back and top that off later. So I must apologize, my camera just cut off, but what we've done is we've reinstalled the power steering pump. Just got the belt back on as well, so that is all fantastic. So after we reinstall the thermofans and then put the grill back on, we are done. So today has been a little bit of a mission. I am feeling positive though that what we've done is going to fix our oil leak issue. So yeah, that's pretty much how she's going to end. Okay, I think we're done, guys. Let's get this thing started up and we'll see what's going on with it. One final check, it's always good to do that because I've just realized my thermofans are not hooked up. It's not something you want to forget. Belt's on, everything's torqued up. Okay, so as I mentioned, we're not going to know whether this works or not until probably a week's time. I'm feeling very positive about it. I think, yeah, there wasn't any oil coming out initially when I let the engine run for about a minute from the timing chain tensioner. Now that we have a brand new radiator, we have new hoses where it counts. That is fantastic. We have to come back. I'll come back and do this next week when I get some proper pins to mount that. That'll be nice and easy. But yeah, otherwise I think we're good to go, and yeah, I'm quietly positive that this will hopefully fix the issue. So yeah, that's about it guys, I'm going to leave it there. I reckon we have solved the issue, but I'm not going to know until I run this car for about a week or so. If you want to support the channel, do head to motoringbox.com and check out the shop. I do have a Homegrown Heroes t-shirt there for sale. It is in very limited quantities at the moment because it is almost sold out, but if you're a small, medium or large or a 2XL, I still have a few left. And in a few weeks time, there's going to be a new shipment coming in. There's a lot of people out there who've already supported me and bought a shirt. I really hope you enjoy it. They'll be turning up in your mailboxes right now. So thank you very much for watching guys. Have a good one. I'll see you next time.